I'm Dora Thornton. I'm the Curator of Renaissance Europe. Welcome to my corner. I'm here with a very small but special selection of jewels, with miniature portraits of Elizabeth I as Queen of England. And when we think of Elizabeth, we tend to think of the huge, emblematic political portraits. But these objects, although they're small, still carry a considerable political punch. So I thought I'd start with a silver medal, which is perhaps the most complex of the lot. On the front is a three-quarter elaborate portrait of Elizabeth as Queen. And she's wearing a lace ruff, a tight bodice, and fantastic jewels over her breast, showing indeed how a jewel like this was intended to be worn, and huge silk sleeves. She's wearing the open crown, the Tudor crown, on her head, and the crown breaks into the Latin legend or inscription which goes all the way round and says, "No circle in the world is richer." And the impression given there is that England is not only a stable and secure monarchy, but it is also very rich and has imperial ambitions to encompass the world's wealth. On the other side of the medal, there is a message showing how Elizabeth identifies herself with her people and how she is their political salvation. It's a beautiful, beautiful image surrounded with a laurel wreath. And it shows a single island in the middle of a stormy sea with ships on it. And the island has one single tree growing on it, a bay tree, which is thought to be impervious to lightning. And that's exactly what's happening. Out of the stormy sky, a bolt of lightning is hitting the tree, and the tree is surviving and not bursting into flames. And underneath the tree is the message, "Not even danger affects it." You're supposed to think of this tree as Elizabeth herself, impervious to danger, the great survivor of political troubles, of conspiracies inside her country, and of foreign invasion, culminating in the Spanish Armada of 1588. And just to make that message clear, on either side of the bay tree is the royal monogram, E.R. Elisabetha Regina, Queen Elizabeth. And so this medal is known as the Danger Averted Medal. It's designed by Nicholas Hilliard, who was the great court artist at the court of Queen Elizabeth, a medalist and a painter, a miniaturist, and designed to be worn just to show our debt to the Queen and the way she identifies herself with the survival and the safety of her people. The second medal is really rather different. This is gold. It's also designed by Nicholas Hilliard, the great miniaturist and medalist, and judging by the style of her dress, it's probably from around 1570 to 80. And here, the exquisitely chased gold portrait has been cut out to form a silhouette, and every detail of the Queen's dress is lovingly picked out and chased and worked in the gold to give different subtle differences of texture. So you see her extraordinarily large velvet sleeves, the way her corset pushes her breasts up beneath her lawn chemise, the wonderful ruffles of her stiff lace collar, and the beautiful braiding of her hair. Also the smoothness and sharp profiling of her face. Around her is a beautiful enamelled gold frame with entwined roses, white and red, the roses of York and Lancaster, the Tudor roses. And those are symbolic of the unity that her grandfather, Henry VII, brought to England with the Tudor dynasty after a century of civil war. When you turn it over, against the profile of the Queen on the back is the open crown of the Tudors, and beneath that, the monogram of the Queen, which spells out every letter in her name. But the most beautiful detail of all is the phoenix fluttering sensuously out of the flames. The phoenix was a legendary female creature that had the capacity to regenerate itself. It would periodically burst into flames and then regenerate itself out of its own ashes. But the phoenix was also associated with chastity. And that was a real problem because Elizabeth, apart from being a female ruler, which was considered a great disadvantage at the time, was also unmarried and didn't have a natural successor. But she made a great strength out of her virginity. In fact, she claimed she was in some way mystically married to her subjects, and that reigning with their loves, as she called it, was more precious to her than the most precious jewel. We then have three really interesting jewels, fashion accessories made out of miniature portraits of the Queen. These are engraved into onyx, which is a stone which has many different horizontal layers within it, ranging from white on the uppermost layer to brown-black in the lowermost layer. It's almost as if you were bringing out the portrait of the Queen that's somehow hidden within the stone. So there's something rather miraculous going on with these miniature portraits. This one, the smallest one, has been fashioned into a ring, a very, very beautiful gold ring of the late 16th century. And so it's obviously intended to be worn at court or by a courtier, as this is something that has been given by the Queen as a token of favour. We know from John Evelyn's diary in 1654 that he met one of Elizabeth I's court musicians, a man called Jerome Lanier, and that Jerome Lanier was then wearing a ring just like this one, still remembering and celebrating Elizabeth 50 years after her death. And I think that gives you an idea of the power of these images, however small they may seem to us. So what we can see at work here is a queen who's very aware of the importance of manipulating her own image as a female ruler in a man's world. Like Shakespeare, the great playwright of her age, she knew that all the world's a stage. In fact, she actually said that she was very well aware that rulers particularly were continually performing and in the eyes of their public. And that's, I think, one thing that makes these jewels so moving. They are power tools, but they're also very intimate, and they're intended to build a personal relationship between you and the Queen. If you'd like to come and see these jewels for yourself, they're normally displayed in Gallery 46, Europe, 15th to 18th centuries.